Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today titled Navigating the Intersection of AI and Accounting. I am Rima, Partner Success Manager at Wafeq. Wafeq is a UAE and Saudi-based company offering accounting software solutions certified by both FTA and Tax and Custom Authority in Saudi Arabia. I'm delighted to be here with you today, along with our guest, Ayman. Welcome, Ayman. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Ayman. Ayman, I would like to hand the mic over to you to give us an introduction about you and a quick overview about your experience.
Yeah, sure. So thanks for having me firstly. So I've been into technology from a very young age, and I studied computer science over the years, and then I moved into like a property management software space, and then I eventually found myself in the accounting software space over at Xero, working in the UK. I was there for around 5 years, and most recently I was heading up their EMEA team, helping them grow into emerging markets throughout the EMEA region. As of last year, I set up Scope Middle East, and we basically help accounting firms, SMEs, choose the best cloud-based software out there. So we're like a digital transformation agency for accounting firms and SMEs, and that's what I am now.
Thank you, Ayman. We also would like to introduce Scope as well. A Scope solution is leading expert in SaaS, helping businesses to choose the right tools for their accounting, POS, inventory, and e-commerce with over a decade of experience and strong partnerships. Scope is expanding globally, focusing in the Middle East region, including the UAE and GCC region, by offering affordable subscription plans. Scope empowers businesses to embrace digital transformation and thrive in the cloud era. I would like also to confirm with the attendees that we we are having a pool here to you. We would really appreciate if you could answer that question in that pool, so we can present the the results later. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so Ayman, our objective in today's webinar is to explore how AI is reshaping the accounting landscape, particularly for SMEs and accounting firms. And the participants will gain insights into their strategies for integrating AI into their financial management processes, understanding the potential benefits and addressing the challenges associated with AI adoption. The session will also include actionable advice for preparing businesses to adapt to the future of accounting with AI and its core. Okay, so I would like to remind all attendees that please share us your questions in the Q&A box here in our webinar. And before the end of this webinar, Ayman will be addressed and answering your questions. Okay, so Ayman, in today's webinar, we will be discussing it through taking it into main topics. Our first topic is that we're going to talk about the role of AI in modern accounting. The second topic will be challenges in AI adoption for accounting. The third topic will be particular steps to leverage AI in financial management. And the fourth topic, we're gonna talk about preparing for the future of AI in accounting. So we will start together, Ayman. Actually, I'm going to to uh, to take it a discussion with you through asking you a questions here. So we will start with the first topic, the role of AI in modern accounting. Ayman, how is AI transforming traditional accounting practices?
Yeah, a great question. And to be honest, it's been happening for a number of years now. So AI's kind of been there behind the scenes without us really knowing about it, without people necessarily realizing they've been using it. One of the key areas that we've seen it is, as a general theme, is reducing the amount of manual work and introducing more automation. For example, we've seen things such as in your bank reconciliation being done in a more clever way, where it's being suggested how you might code certain transactions up. That's just an example, and you may not realize, but that's a area called machine learning, which has been around for a long time, and it's been AI. Um,
Yeah,
Now, I think that's the general theme is a reduction in manual work and an increase in automation. It also gives firms upskilling opportunities because if you're able to automate more of your workflows, you're able to then free up capacity in the team to maybe start upskilling people to add more value-added work. We're talking things like advisory work is becoming more commonplace. So rather than just focusing the team on manual data entry, you end up actually freeing capacity up for them to benefit from all those accounting courses that they've been taking right over the years and using a wider array of the skills that they've gained. So that's generally what we've seen happen is there's a more of a reduction in the type of work that is time consuming but less valuable and a move towards the things that humans add even more value to and which the AI can't yet achieve quite so well.
yeah, yeah. Thank you, Ayman, for your answer uh, for this question. Um, Our second question, Ayman, what are AI's main benefits to accounting processes like bookkeeping, especially, and compliance and forecasting?
Yeah, so there's quite a lot here. So firstly, on the bookkeeping front, OCR technology's been the biggest game changer for sure in speeding up the bookkeeping process. So we talked about manual work. One of the biggest jobs that we've seen lots of accounting firms and anyone even that runs a business is getting your kind of paper documents, your invoices, your receipts, all of that into your accounting software. It's often been a manual job. Let's say for an accounting firm, you've got documents in lots of different places. Normally, you will hand them over to maybe a junior in the company, in the firm, and they'll be
Yeah,
spending hours and hours typing all of these up and checking, and then you have someone else to review and check it all. So it's a very, very kind of laborious task. And the great thing about OCR technology is that you can essentially remove that job. So you can either just forward it onto an email inbox often, and the accounting software can extract the data from the documents and essentially create the transactions in your accounting software. We see that even in Wafeq, right? It's got it in there. But the other area is bank reconciliation. So we touched on this as well earlier. So machine learning in your bank reconciliation. So some software will have the ability for the tool, it will kind of see how you've coded things in the past, and it will then suggest, oh, you've coded this way before. Is this how you want to code it going forwards? And so it starts to learn and suggest how you might want to complete your bank reconciliation. That's been a huge bonus, I would say, in terms of what AI has brought to the table on the bookkeeping side. And this saves you hours, if not days, of work over time. Again, freeing up capacity to either take on more clients or even upskill your current staff, right? And on the compliance side, there's keeping on top of the regulatory changes. So we know in the UAE, the FTA is regularly releasing new regulations, and it's incumbent on obviously accounting firms and the accountants to keep on top of all of that. But it's a challenging job even for them. Sometimes there's lots of interpretation involved. Sometimes the originals, I think, will be in Arabic often, and you then got the English, and then you've got to reconcile between the two sometimes. So there's a lot to keep on top of for firms, and there are some tools out there that are now actually starting to do that work themselves. So they will keep updating these models to help you. Actually, you can query it in a similar way to how you might use ChatGPT. You can ask it about certain regulations, and it will help you, and it will tell you, for example, what the VAT rate might be on certain services or products or whatever it might be. And that gives you, I think, a really good starting point. It not only helps, I would say, an accountant, it at least might steer them in the right direction, and then they can dig a little bit deeper. But it just saves some of that initial research work at least. And then there's forecasting. So forecasting is really about providing insights and looking ahead into the business. Now, often the best telltale sign about what's to come is what's happened before. Now, commonly to have to go through all your previous transactions and all your previous reports and the performance of the business is very laborious work. It's often difficult for a human being to actually spot patterns in historic transactions, but that's actually where the AI is very, very good. So there are tools out there that will integrate with your accounting, and even some accounting tools themselves that will have this built in, where they will create insights based on what's happened before and help you forecast going forward.
Yes, correct, correct. Thank you, Ayman, for your valuable informations here. Okay, we will move together to the third question. Ayman, can you give us a real world examples of AI-driven success stories in accounting?
Yeah, sure. So the biggest one, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the OCR side. So
Yeah.
I would say for most accounting firms, the biggest win that you can take from AI today is automating your data entry for sure. So we've seen firms reduce the amount of data entry they have to do by around 90% in the best cases. Now, the scenario is, right, traditional accounting and how it's been done.
Mm.
Your clients will probably show up to you periodically, whether it's monthly, quarterly, or end of the year in the worst cases, with a bag or a box full of receipts and invoices. They
Yeah,
hand it over to your team, and they're having to manually trawl through each of these, type them up one by one into a spreadsheet, and then eventually you'll probably end up uploading that into your accounting software. This takes days and days of time. It's also not the most enjoyable work, as you can imagine, for a younger generation that's a bit more tech savvy and a bit more keen to be using technology, let's say, that kind of job is not very fulfilling. So what we've seen is that firms are able to not have to inflate their teams quite so much with this manual data entry. They're using a tool like Wafeq, for example, which has the OCR built in. There's a couple of ways that they'll do this. Either they'll just get their clients to forward any invoices on to
uh,
the email inbox there, or even for some of the clients that aren't prepared to do that, let's say that they still, maybe you've got some older clients and they just don't want to change the way, and you're not quite confident enough to, let's say, let go of clients. Because I've seen some firms do this. They will insist that, hey, you have to use the tools that we give you, otherwise you can't continue to be our clients, or they'll say you have to pay us a bit more. But what I've seen also happen in some firms is they will have their admin staff in the office, so even their secretary. If a client shows up with a bag or a box with receipts, they will have a
they will
scanner
check.
set up. Yeah, they have a scanner set up with an email address, which is the email address of the accounting software inbox. And as they
Correct.
scan each one through, they're actually creating the accounting transactions unknowingly because
Yeah.
it's going through and the OCR is extracting it, and it just saves a lot of time. So yeah, that's by far the biggest area. So I would say where you should start is definitely there. And there's countless success stories of that.
Yeah, yes, that's great actually. Okay, thank you, Ayman, for that. Okay, I would like all to remind to our attendees again that please feel free to share your questions here in the Q&A box, and we will be answering them before the end of our webinar. Okay, Ayman, now we are moving together to topic 2 here in today's webinar. We're gonna talk about challenges in AI adoption for accounting. Um, Ayman, what are the most common barriers to adopting AI in accounting?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest one is actually inertia. So this is like the lack of changing anything at all. So it's not even a technological barrier. It's actually more of a psychological one where, let's say your firm is used to doing things a certain way, and there is this mentality, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. In reality, what we're finding is that there is a real struggle for people to find good quality staff. So this whole idea of continuing to throw human resources at problems is going to become more and more difficult. So finding well-trained staff, there's high turnover of staff
Yeah,
in the region, and actually not adopting technologies is more of a psychological barrier than it is a real technological or process one. There's also a lack of awareness, I would say. So people don't always know how things can help them out there. They're probably so caught up in doing the day job and running their firms that maybe they haven't got the time to go out there and learn about which tools might be the best ones and how they can actually help and reduce their workload and improve the value that their clients get. There's so much out there. So I'd say there's also this whole phenomenon of being overwhelmed by choice. So perhaps there's too much choice these days. So for sure, we see lots of firms almost kind of get paralyzed into doing nothing because they can't make a decision about where they should go, which software they should choose, etc.
correct. Correct. Thank you once again, Ayman. Okay, Ayman, our next question is how can businesses overcome concerns about complexity and data security in AI?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. So I would say one of the best places to get assurance around these things is to speak to your peers. So no doubt there will be others in your same shoes or have been in your shoes that have been through that change. And what I found, at least in the markets that I've worked in, so I've worked in the UK, I've worked in the UAE for a while now, in Saudi Arabia. I found that the forward-thinking firms that have adopted a lot of this technology are actually very open to sharing their experiences and why they've chosen to do what they do. So I would say leverage your networks for sure. If you've spotted someone in your accounting network that has gone on there using software, a cloud-based software, and they're using a cloud-based accounting software, and they have been through this change, and maybe they once shared your concerns, why have they chosen to go ahead already? So speaking to your peers is often one of the better ways to get that assurance about this stuff. Also speak to experts. So people like ourselves at Scope, we like to think we're impartial. So we kind of will sit there in between. We partner with lots of different types of accounting software and other software, which is all cloud-based. So we've got an idea of where certain software might be better for others, and where the cost and benefit might make sense in some cases versus others, because it's always going to be about finding the right fit. I would say in terms of complexity, there is a tendency, particularly for medium-sized plus businesses, to think they have to go and invest in a very expensive ERP system
yeah,
like an SAP or an Oracle or something like that. When in reality, something like Wafeq could actually work particularly well. So even a product that's designed for SMEs, these days they're so robust and they're so feature packed that you can achieve quite a lot with them. And in terms of data security, this is something that we used to hear quite a lot over the years, particularly when people were still moving from desktop-based solutions to the cloud. People worry, oh, say the data's not going to be with me, it's going to be out there somewhere, and it's quite a scary concept. In reality, it's actually safer. So almost every cloud-based solution these days will have like two-factor authentication, and
correct.
it's even harder to kind of get hacked these days. I'm not aware of any security breaches, at least not any major ones, for any of the accounting softwares that have been out there. So there's been almost no occurrences, and actually it's safer insofar as before, if you've got everything on your desktop, right? And let's say your laptop is in a room. So recently in Dubai, we had the floods, right? And lots of office buildings, lots of homes got flooded. So imagine all your accounting data is there, and maybe the last backup you did was a little while ago,
Yeah.
how disruptive is that to your operation, compared to if it was in the cloud and essentially it didn't matter if you're, yes, there's lots of things that would have been affected, but at the very least, your business can continue to operate, and it's been less of a disruption because it's been in the cloud. So that's kind of the pros and cons of it. I think you can, just by educating yourselves a bit more, reach out to experts, reach out to your peers, you can very quickly, I feel, overcome some of those fears that you might have about the cost, the complexity, and data security.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Ayman. Uh, Here, okay. So, Ayman, our next question is about legal and ethical considerations for implementing AI in financial management, especially. What are the legal and ethical considerations here?
Yeah, so one of the things that so like tools like ChatGPT have been amazing because it's just this whole kind of wealth of knowledge in there, it seems, and you can ask it almost anything and it will come up with a reasonable answer in most cases. Now, the
Mm,
temptation there is to have over reliance on it and perhaps get a little bit lazy when you're using it. So one of the considerations is definitely sharing of like confidential information. Although, to my knowledge, if you share something in ChatGPT, generally speaking, it will remain in that session.
mm,
However, it's to stay on the safe side, it's better off to try to minimize any information that you do share to the absolute minimum necessary. So, for example, if you wanted to review an agreement that you might have with a client of yours, maybe remove the client names or change them.
yes,
That's not going to affect essentially the advice that you're looking to get from it, but at least it means that the specifics and the commercial sensitivities might not be there anymore. So remove your name, remove the name of the client, and that way, because it's probably, although it won't make it out there into the kind of the wider internet. So if someone else was to search, hey, what's the details of the agreements between Wafeq and Scope, they're not going to be able to find it. However, if there's a chance that that data has been stored, and obviously if ChatGPT were to be hacked one day and maybe that there was a data breach, then
mm,
obviously that information could be made available through that means. So better to err on the side of caution and do that. There's also the other consideration is kind of who's responsible for any advice that comes out of these tools, right? So let's say your accounting software or you're using ChatGPT to get some advice. So maybe your accounting software, let's say, suggests that you might be better off coding something a certain way. And then the FTA, when you do, after an audit says, oh, hang on, like that's wrong. Who's responsible? Is it the software or is it the individual that took the advice of the software? There's these kind of considerations, I would say.
sure, correct.
Um, and then finally, like, yeah, what if, so that's kind of it. So what if something goes wrong, right? Um, who ends up taking fault for these things. So you should always assume responsibility yourself these days. So the ethical thing to do, and from a legal standpoint, there's lots of gray areas here.
Yeah,
Laws haven't yet been adapted enough to cater for all these different scenarios now that AI has come in. So always assume that any advice that you give or any actions that you take that have resulted from perhaps you seeking some guidance from AI, assume that that's as if it's come from yourself, and you can't just say, "Oh, I got it from ChatGPT." That
yeah,
probably won't be good enough when it comes to, God forbid, any court cases that you might have to go through if things get that too bad.
correct. That's correct. Okay, Ayman, thank you once again here. Okay, now we are moving together to topic three here in today's webinar. We're gonna talk about particular steps to leverage AI in financial management. Ayman, what are the key areas in your business where AI can add a value?
Yeah, so we've touched on some of these before, but I'll try to summarize them and add a little bit more. So
Yeah,
definitely speeding up the bookkeeping is a key thing. So get yourself a good cloud accounting software like Wafeq, which will help you from the whole pre-accounting bit, which is the bit where you're doing the data entry, It'll help you to do your bank reconciliation. It'll give you nice dashboards to keep on top of things. And then get yourself probably if you want some more insights. There's a really good tool out there that actually integrates with Wafeq called Qudwa, which will plug in. It actually has AI powered insights, so you're able to then look into your data a bit more. And again, we talked about this earlier, and be able to suggest how you might um, forecast things going forwards. What some of the anomalies might have been in the past. You might leverage some of those and pull them out a bit more and give you an idea of why something might have happened based on your data. So again, being able to get deeper insights into your data powered by AI. The compliance advice we talked about. So there's tools out there that will help at least steer you in the right direction. If you've got any concerns about compliance, I would always still say get yourself a good accountant. Uh, but sometimes, to kind of take that first step, you might need to do a little bit of deep and digging a bit deeper. So using a tool that will help you do that, provide some high level tax advice could be useful, at least to prompt you to take that next step. And then finally, there's marketing. I would say marketing has been one of the areas that's been quite heavily influenced by AI. So whether it's using ChatGPT to help you come up with some kind of basic marketing plan, or there's even SEO tools, so search engine optimization tools out there that will help actually keep your websites relevant, and they're powered by AI. So these days, the things that your business can really be positively influenced by AI in lots of different ways. In the finance function, for sure, it's speeding up the whole data entry through to the bookkeeping, through to the insights piece, which is by far the biggest winner.
Correct, correct. Thank you. Thank you once again, Ayman. Okay, Ayman, um, we have a question here that what are the tools and technologies shaping AI-powered accounting solutions today? Can you tell
Yeah,
us more
so
about
we,
it? Sure.
yeah, for sure. So Wafeq, as I said, is like a good example of an accounting solution that has the OCR built into it. It's got integrations with tools like Qudwa, so the reporting tools, um, and they will together give you a really good end-to-end solution there. So that's an example. There's all sorts out there, but I found that those tools together work quite well, and particularly well in the UAE market where they've been localized, and even in Saudi as well. They've really well localized. They take into consideration all the local regulations that people might need to take into account. And beyond that, yeah, there's these kind of AI powered tax advisors that we're starting to see a little bit more of. They're quite cool as well. They will basically help give you little nuggets of advice, and they'll keep on top, and are particularly useful for accounting firms, I would say. As I mentioned earlier, they will keep on top of all the latest regulations so that you don't always have to trawl through pages and pages and pages of like FTA regulations. So at least it gives you a bit of peace of mind. And also given that these tools as well will be fed by experts in tax and accounting as well. So there's almost like several layers of checks, but from your perspective, being able to chat to this like bot which knows all the latest information is incredibly useful.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. Okay, Ayman, here we have a question. How can SMEs evaluate and implement these tools effectively in their businesses?
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier that there's lots and lots of choice, right? So it's
Mhm.
almost very difficult for people to do this job themselves. However, you can still do it because we're in the internet era these days. It's actually relatively easy to get hold of information that will
Yeah.
help you make a decision. So well, I guess one option is to just allocate enough time to do the research. Often tools will have free trials that you can try them out, see if it works for your business. There's a lot of information out there on review sites. You can speak to others. It can take a little bit of time though. So the other option is to kind of work with someone like Scope, where we have kind of been through the evaluation of lots of different tools, and we can help advise SMEs essentially on which tools might be the best ones, the best fit for their business, just based on what their requirements are. It takes away some of that kind of confusion that comes with having to choose software. Often, if you go to any software company's website, obviously they're only going to talk about the benefits. Sometimes there are drawbacks, and sometimes there's benefits for some software than others. So we're kind of able to help them determine what might be best for them, and we can kind of help if they also need multiple apps, let's say, integrated together. We can help with all of those as well. So it means that they're not only getting a view from one side of one software, but actually they can get a partner that helps them implement across their whole tech stack.
Great. Great. Okay, thank you. Thank you once again, Ayman, here for your answer. Now we are moving together to topic 4 here in our webinar today. We're gonna talk about preparing for the future of AI in accounting. How AI, Ayman, how is AI expected to evolve in the accounting industry from your point of view, for sure?
Yeah, it's already happened. It's as I said, it's been around for a little while now. It seems to be getting better and better. So how AI generally works is you've got the tool itself and how it's been developed, but also you've got what they call these kind of large language models, which is behind the scenes, the data that the AI is collecting to help it get better and to help it make the suggestions or to do the work that it does for you. As the usage of AI has been increasing, these are getting better and better. Now, what we're expecting to see in the years ahead is more automated bookkeeping. So at the moment, AI has been really good at maybe suggesting some things on your bank reconciliation based on what you've done before. And then if you look on the OCR side, so before it even gets into your accounting system, it's getting better and better at extracting the data from
Right.
documents, be it in English, be it in different languages, but also dealing with more unstructured data. So maybe the format is not that clear. These days, we're even starting to see some tools that can read handwritten receipts and invoices,
Yeah.
which is amazing. But yeah, that didn't exist a few years ago. So already we're seeing some innovation in that space. I would say going forward, there's some new tools coming out now that will actually look to do not only the pre-accounting bit, which is extracting from the documents, but also then see that through into the actual bank reconciliation itself. So learning almost like using its AI to some of them will look at like 2 years of how you've done things in the past. And just
Mm.
from taking the document, it will then go through and do all the coding itself automatically, which is amazing. That can save even more time than what we've seen before. And then I think what we're going to see is AI moving more into the advisory space. So far it's been focused primarily on reducing manual effort as well as surfacing up some insights, but in dedicated reporting tools, we've seen that more. We're yet to see a lot of AI powered insights within accounting software these days. I think what we might start seeing is potentially the creeping in of let's say, tax advice potentially into your accounting software. So maybe it might suggest, hey, you've got a lot of entertainment expenses. Did you know that you can only claim 50% of these back, for example, in the UAE? If they're with clients. So these kind of things, they might actually just start suggesting little things
Mm.
like that, and maybe something a lot more useful. But essentially, having knowledge of the tax, the kind of jurisdiction that you're in and the regulations, and then suggesting how you might code things differently, or where you might need to seek more advice potentially within your data. It might spot some patterns and help actually shape and provide some advice around it. I think that'll be, I don't think we're quite there yet, but we're definitely seeing some moves towards that space. So I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, sure. Actually, Ayman, I have one more question here to add. Um, what do you think about the quality check side in accounting? Would AI be a part of that?
How do you mean? Sorry, the equality check. Yeah.
Okay, okay. When you so like in accounting, for example, there is a when you are doing the audit, for example,
Mm,
to one of your companies, or there is a standard to follow. And those standards to ensure them that they are correct, there is a quality check process. Usually, the accountants do
mm.
for their financials. Would AI be a part of that quality check also process? Would it possible?
Yeah, I think so. So I think things like quality checks for audits are definitely going to be areas that you can help, that AI will be able to help, because you can essentially define a certain standard, and
Yeah,
provided it's
right.
consistent, then there's no reason why AI couldn't apply those checks and go through and check things for you. So 100% that's an area that I think will be affected by it in a positive way.
Correct, correct. Thank you for your answer, Ayman here. Okay, Ayman, here we have a question. What skills do accountants need to thrive in in an AI-driven future, and how can they balance technology with their human-centric roles?
Yeah, so I want to start with a quote that's I heard someone say recently, which is if you act like robots, you'll be replaced by them. So that's basically any tasks that you are currently doing that can be done by a machine will very likely be done by a machine. So if you're doing those kind of tasks, you should definitely be thinking about, and if you're only doing those kind of tasks, then you should 100% be thinking about what other skills do I need to pick up to be continue to be relevant in the future, in my profession. Now, in general, most
Mm,
people that work in accounting have some kind of accounting background, and perhaps you can start to focus on the other sides, which AI can't yet do particularly well. So, be it the human relationship side of things, we know that AI can't quite build up a relationship in the same way a human can. So, for client managers, I don't think your jobs will be at risk anytime soon. Also, humans tend to be more creative than AI. You'll probably know your clients better. So being able to provide more customized advice based on understanding of their circumstances is definitely something that AI, again, isn't yet going to really replace. Yes, you can feed it with a number of parameters and prompts, but there's there's a difference when you build a relationship over time with a particular client and you understand the nuances of their business and some of the maybe non-business related aspects, whether they've got something going on in their personal lives and how that might affect some of the decisions that they make. Because in particular, SMEs are at the end of the day people, right? And it's just usually a small amount of people. So the decisions aren't always going to be just business ones. They're often going to be personal ones. So AI might give you a really logical answer of how best to do something, but at the end of the day, there's potentially other considerations that the human might bring into it. Also, I think, yeah, try and make that shift towards advisory as much as possible because that's where there's more nuance, there's more room for interpretation and potentially creativity in the accounting space. So, yeah, for sure, I think move away from manual work as much as possible because it will be replaced whether you like it or not. It's going to be one of these things that you can't control. It's changing. So you might not like it, but you should definitely upskill and do something that requires more human intellect and more of the human skill set for sure.
sure, sure. Thank you, Ayman, for your question. Sorry for your answering this question. I'm so sorry. Okay. Now we are coming about to our end of our questions and our session. And here I have one additional question. Ayman, what is your advice for new business owners in UAE?
Yeah, so I'd say, look, I see lots of business owners start out with just a spreadsheet to do their accounting, and later on, very quickly, let's say within 6 months to a year, they said, okay, I actually need to get on top of my finance a bit more. Let me get some software. At that point, they've built up quite a bit of a mess in their spreadsheet. They maybe didn't engage with an accountant early. It's not their space. And some of them have, as a result of it, been subject to fines, let's say, for not filing their corporate tax, not filing for corporate tax on time. They have lots of bookkeeping work that needs to be redone. They need to try and find supporting documents because they didn't realize that they had to. So my number one advice would be get someone to help you with your accounts early on, particularly if it's not your skill set. If it is, then fantastic. Make sure you do it yourself. Get yourself some cloud-based accounting software, 100%. Look, it will just make your life a lot simpler, even early on. It's worth its weight in gold. It's generally not expensive in the grand scheme of things. And it's actually a bit of a false economy, I would say, trying to keep a spreadsheet early. So you might be saving in the short term. In the long term, you're going to have to pay an accountant to probably go back through your spreadsheets and redo it all. So you end up paying more than what you would have just for the accounting software subscriptions early. So yeah, get yourself a good accountant, get yourself a cloud-based software right from the beginning, and life will be a lot easier in a few months' time.
Yeah, that's great. Ayman, I would like to discuss one comment with you here. We have it. Actually, we had a comment from an accountant attending with us. He is saying, "Stop trying to put us out of a job." Would you please comment on this?
Hey, no one's trying to put you out of a job. I always say that accountants are still needed, and hopefully that's come through throughout my talk. At the end of the day, we can't control the fact that technology will do the jobs that it can do. It will replace them. Why would you pay for, why would you pay more for a human to do a job that a machine can do
Yeah,
equally well, sometimes better? Everything else that accountants do. So I think accountants probably undersell themselves and perhaps um, by focusing on jobs that can be automated are devaluing themselves. You've got a lot more value to add, I would say, and we've seen this happen in other markets. So the UAE, the Middle East, isn't unique in this shift. It's happened in other markets, and you can kind of speak to firm owners, be it in the UK, in Australia, and New Zealand. These are some of the most forward markets in this space that have had government programs that have essentially kind of forced people to use software earlier on and benefit from it. You'll see the benefits, and you'll also be able to attract clients that value your services beyond just keeping them compliant.
correct, correct. That's totally correct. And thank you for your comment as well, Ayman. Okay, Ayman, thank you for your answers and for your valuable information today. Now we will gonna move together to the Q&A part here in today's webinar. Okay, let us check the questions we have here. Okay, so Ayman, we have a question here. What is the percentage of my accounting and bookkeeping can AI manage for SMEs businesses uh, seamlessly and eff efficiently? Thanks.
Yeah, so
Mm,
I would say if you're working with an accounting firm that uses the latest technologies, firstly, you still need an accountant because they will help you with the nuances of the regulations. In terms of the bookkeeping, AI can help significantly. So whether it's getting your documents in there, you can reduce most of that work by, in the best cases, over the years, you're looking at up to 90% of reduction in terms of the amount of time you have to spend doing things. Let me give you an example.
sure.
So let's say that if you're in the UAE, you're using Kareem all the time to get taxi rides. So every time you take your ride, it will send you a receipt to your email inbox.
Correct.
Now, imagine, and if that's a business expense, when you want that to end up in your accounting software eventually. So rather than having to manually type that up and then download it and then upload it against your software, you can essentially have a rule in your inbox to say every time I get a Kareem receipt, forward it onto this email address. And
Mhm.
then so that way, every time you take a business ride, your that receipt will end up in the accounting software with the transaction against it because it's able to pull out that side. So that means you literally don't have to do anything for that receipt because you know how to treat that, you know how to code it against the right accounting. So I'd say on the data entry side, you're looking at up to 90% efficiency over time. It'll take the first few times you have to do it, you have to teach it to say, this is how I want you to treat this. There might be some setup, but hopefully your business will be around for a number of years and you'll start to year after year, these efficiencies kind of stack up quite a bit. In terms of the bank reconciliation itself, that also generally gets easier the more you kind of teach it how you want to code things, the better it gets. So you end up being able, also if you have so if you're in the UAE and you've got a WEO bank account, let's say for example, so Wafeq has WEO direct bank feeds, so they'll come through on a daily basis. You'll get all your bank transactions. You can essentially keep on top of your bookkeeping on a daily basis rather than having to wait till the end of the month and download your statement and then upload it again and go through the whole month's worth of transactions. Actually, just keeping on top of a few transactions a day that are coming through, not only is it quicker to do, it also means that you're able to see how healthy your business is on a daily basis and whether you've got cash flow issues, and then your accountant can give you advice. So yeah, there's significant time savings that can be had there.
Correct, correct. Thank you, Ayman, for your answer. Okay, we have another question, Ayman. How can business owners effectively screen accounting firms to partner with? Many firms currently charge on a per transaction basis, but isn't that approach outdated, especially with the widespread widespread of a widespread use of OCR technology.
Yeah, so if I was looking for an accounting firm, I would be looking for the ones that are using
Mhm,
the latest tools for sure. So you might want to figure out what kind of tools and also how they're charging you. So
mhm,
I don't want to put anyone off any accounting firms, but I'd say it's less common these days to find, let's say, time-based billing approaches are less common. They're more of a feature of um, more traditional firms. Now, per transactions is an interesting one because that, yes, you're right, it kind of does, that basically implies the more transactions you have, the higher the cost is going to be. And although with OCR technology, their job should get easier, there is
yeah,
sometimes still review work that needs to be done. And although the OCR will reduce that job, it still is true to some extent that the more transactions you have coming through, the bigger a job they have will be. So I don't think necessarily filtering out firms that charge on a per transaction basis would be the approach. But
mhm,
yeah, I would definitely take it as a value based and take a holistic view of what they're offering you. Don't just go for the cheapest. That's often a false economy. The amount of times I've had SMEs come up to me and say, "Hey, can you recommend me a more expensive accountant because my one is cheap, but the service quite isn't quite there what I expect it to be." So they don't just want to pay more, but they value paying more for getting a better quality of service. So it's not all about just what's in scope, but also about the human experience that you're also getting and the quality of the service, I think, generally speaking. But yeah, for sure, I would look at their tech stack if they don't even mention to you using an OCR tool,
mhm,
then it might be that they're not necessarily as far ahead in their own digitalization journey, and that
yeah,
might be fine. They might still be really good at what their job is. It might just be that there's a lack of awareness there. So I don't mean to put anyone off in that respect, but the most digital firms, let's say, would be using OCR technology for sure.
correct, correct. Thank you, Ayman. Okay, Ayman, we have another question. What is a good AI-powered tax advisor tool? if you have one.
Yeah, so that for that one, there's one good one that I'm aware of in the UAE at least. It's called Simpler.ai. So really nice tool. Works. It feels like you're chatting to a chat GPT type thing. Really good team behind it. So yeah, I recommend taking a look at that one.
Okay, thank you, Ayman. Okay, Ayman, we have another question. Will we reach a stage where accountants will not be required and AI will do the trivial, trivial activities and will also provide financial advice for the business owner to action?
Perhaps for the most simplest of businesses, this could be the case. I
Mhm.
think that regulations in accounting are so nuanced that sometimes there's not always one way of doing things or one answer. I think an accountant's experience and their knowledge of how to interpret the laws are often the things that differentiate them. Also, their knowledge of you and your business, which the software just isn't going to know. So the advice isn't always going to be just based on the software following like a logic tree of is this true, then this. Like there's often
Correct.
a bigger picture that needs to be painted, and a good
Correct.
accountant would know your business and know what might make the most sense for you in that case. So no, I don't think that it will accountants' jobs will disappear.
Mm.
There might be some really simple businesses that perhaps don't need an accountant in the future. I don't think we're at that point yet, and I don't think we will be for quite some time.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Ayman. Ayman, we have a question here also. Which modules we can add in AI accounting softwares? Can you give a short explanation for any three use case?
So we've touched on this throughout the session, but um, AI is being used in your bank reconciliation. So to use machine learning to suggest how you might match a transaction from your bank account to the transactions in your ledger. B, it could also be on the data entry side, so being able to read documents, extract the data from there, and create accounting transactions based on it. And three, it'll be to draw insights from your data. So let's say you've got a lot of data in there, it might suggest that, hey, you've reached a threshold in the last 12 months of your revenue. That means that you now need to register for VAT because
Yeah,
the VAT threshold in the UAE is 375,000 dirhams. It might be different. Don't take me on that. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, whatever the threshold is, it might know it and it might say, hey, it's time for you to register for VAT, for example, right? So or it might say that you've got an anomaly. Normally your sales are over 100,000 a month. In March, it's showing as over 1 million. You should look at that. There might be something wrong there, for example, right? So these kind of things, where it looks at the data that you've got and it makes suggestions, those are the kind of three key use cases, I would say.
correct. Thank you once again, Ayman, for your answer. Okay, Ayman, we have a question. Do you know any other companies working towards implementing AI into accounting fully, to their accounting fully?
Well, all serious players, all serious accounting software is implementing AI into its accounting fully. They're all starting in different places. I would say almost all of them have started in the OCR side. Over time, we're starting to see the emergence of things like generative AI chat coming into the accounting software as well. So lots of the major players have these already. They're still, I'd say, quite surface level in terms of how useful they are. So that maybe they can just tell you things that you can quite easily self-service yourself or tasks that you can do yourself relatively simply. Yeah, any cloud-based software. So as long as it's not an old software, all of them are implementing AI to varying degrees. And I think it's still a really emerging space. So it's too early to tell. Like no one's really kind of way ahead in this space. They're all in a similar space.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, in a matter of time, I think the years ahead will be quite telling.
Yeah. Thank you, Ayman, for your answer. And thank you for all of your answers in today's webinar. It was a pleasure to have you with us today. And thank you for your valuable information uh, in today's webinar. Ayman, is there anything you would like to add uh, to this topic from your end?
The only thing I'd like to say is, look, thanks for
Yeah,
joining and for being curious. That's a great place to start.
thank you.
And the worst thing you can do is to, if you haven't kind of looked at any cloud-based software, is to take a look. If you're not using any AI in your accounting and you're still on spreadsheets or older desktop software, take a look at Wafeq. It's a great choice. But just be curious, go out there, try different things, speak to people. Like, you're more than welcome to reach out to me personally or go on our website and fill out a form to get a bit more information. Be more than happy to help.
Sure, sure. Thank you once again, Ayman. And I would like also to thank all of our attendees today for joining us. Um, it really was my very pleasure to meet you here, Ayman, and to talk with you in today's webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.